Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Today, if you clicked on this video, you know what I'm going to talk about. It's a video that is a little bit unconventional for me and for this channel, but it is something I wanted to talk about nonetheless. So, if you are uncomfortable with any of the subject matter, if you are uncomfortable with me talking about periods, cramps, blood, vaginas, and all of the like, this is not the video on my channel for you. And if you click on the little button over there or over there that takes you to the rest of my channel, I'm sure you will find something that is a little bit more up your alley. But I wanted to talk about this today because I think it's something that needs to be talked about. So what is this? If you clicked on it and somehow didn't see the title, I want to talk about my experience with the last year of having an IUD. An IUD is an intrauterine device and it is a form of birth control. I got my IUD on October 29th of 2015, and after a couple of months of living with it, I knew that I wanted to talk about it, but I wanted to give it a full year to see what kind of things happen, what changes happen, and all that sort of thing. So a little bit of history about me. I was on the pill before I got an IUD, and I was on the pill from age 21 to just before I turned 29. So 8 years, and the pill worked great. The problem with the pill is that you have, in order for most effective birth control, you should take it the same time every day. And so I always had an alarm set. I was always very diligent about it. But after I got married, it became one of those things where I would panic a little bit if I happened to take it too late, or what if I skipped one, and oh my gosh, the anxiety was terrible. My husband and I are not planning on having children. If the good Lord has a different plan for us, then so be it, but we are taking the measures appropriate to keep us from having children. Hence why I decided to get the IUD. It is a semi-permanent form of birth control for the next 5 years, or however long I have it in. I should, in theory, not get pregnant. After talking to my gynecologist, she's both, she's not my OB, after talking to my gynecologist and I told her, you know, what was going on and what I wanted, she said that the IUD was definitely the best form of birth control for me. And I did a little bit of research and I read some horror stories about all sorts of different things that happen. And I also read about people that got pregnant. And my husband is sitting there going, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Meaning, don't stop taking the pill if we know that the pill works. But at the end of the day, I wanted something that I could just not worry about. You know what I mean? There is no panic. There's no forgetting to take the IUD. It's just there, it lives in me, and it supposedly does its job. So, that's a little bit of the background. Oh, so the pills were estrogen and progesterone being coursed through my body. I believe, disclaimer number one, I don't know how many disclaimers there will be, I'm not a medical person. I don't take my advice as sound medical advice. Do obviously what is right for you. I just want to tell you my personal experience with this. That being said, birth control, I believe, prevents you from ovulating. I believe. Birth control. The pill, specifically, with the estrogen and the progesterone, I believe that's what happens. So I had not ovulated or anything like that on the pill for 8 years. And I had, while I was on the pill, I didn't really have any cramping problems. I didn't have any PMS problems. I knew exactly when my period was coming, and it only lasted for a couple of days, 3 or 4 max. And it came, you know, pretty thoroughly. I took my placebo on Sunday. Period usually showed up Tuesday, was done by Thursday, Friday if I was really unlucky, and I was on my merry way. And occasionally some flows would be lighter than others, and some months I'd have heavier flows, and it was fine. Whatever, things kind of did what they were supposed to do. When I got the IUD, everything kind of turned on its head, and that's what I wanted to tell you about. The IUD has no estrogen, but it has progesterone kind of in there that gets time released over the period of 5 years. And on the website, it actually says that the Mirena, I have Mirena specifically, I don't know if I actually mentioned that or not. I have Mirena, the 5-year one, and it says it could be preventing pregnancy in one of 3 ways, or a combination of 3 ways. And we're like, well, that's inspiring. It could be doing it, but it doesn't actually say this is how it does it. But regardless of if it could be, would be, should be, it does. So with the combination of the progesterone or whatever, no estrogen, it works somehow, some way. So what changed, I believe, is now I'm ovulating. And now I don't have estrogen being pushed in specific doses into my body. And so my entire body kind of went, say what? Throughout this last year. And it's still something that I'm kind of adjusting to. But I'll get to that in a second. First, I want to talk about the experience of actually getting the IUD. Once I decided that I was getting the IUD, I made an appointment with my doctor for the next time I was supposed to be having my period, because she wants us, and I don't know if this is like ground rules for everybody, but I'm going to tell you what my doctor did for me. She wanted me to get the IUD while I was on my period. And I also had to take this pill that I don't know what part of abortion pill it is, if it cleans things out afterwards. I don't know what it is, but it was one of those pills that it softens your cervix, so it's easier to get the IUD inserted. And I had to, take a pregnancy test the day I was getting the IUD. I had to take a pregnancy test before. I had to verify with the pharmacist who gave me the pill. He's like, "You are not pregnant." I said, "No, there's no chance I am pregnant." Because the abortion, I don't know if it causes abortion or if abortion is a high risk of this med. I can't remember. But I needed it to soften my cervix and do nothing more. I cleared all those tests. They were negative, no problem. So I got 2 pills, and I had to take one. My appointment was at 1:00 p.m. I had to take one pill 24 hours before my appointment, and then one pill 12 hours before my appointment. So I just took it right before I went to bed that night at about midnight. And that was fine. I could have experienced cramping, this, the other thing. I didn't experience any of that. It was fine. So I went in the next day to get my IUD. And my doctor is so good. She's so informative, and she tells me exactly what's going to happen to me. And some people said, "Oh, getting it inserted was no problem." Some people said, "Oh, it just feels like mild period cramps. Oh, it was the most painful thing ever." So all of my research aside, I didn't know what to expect. So I walked in there and took another pregnancy test to make sure I was in fact not pregnant. And she said, "Okay," and hopped up on the table, and she explained everything to me. The IUD, which is this little teeny tiny device, and I obviously I don't have one here because mine's inside, but I think if I recall, it was about this big. My doctor actually had one on her key ring to show people. So it's like this big, right? But it has this it's stuck in kind of like a tampon applicator is to a tampon. It's in this little long device that the doctor sets to a certain number, and she sticks that in and ejects the IUD like we eject a tampon, right? So that's kind of how the whole insertion works. Before she inserts things, she has to take a measurement to get the most accurate placement for this IUD. You have to apparently get a measurement from the opening of your cervix. I'm touching like my abdomen, like you guys could see it. From the opening of your cervix to the back of your uterus. To do that, she inserts something that is the same shape as the IUD inserter device, but it's a metal pole with like dashes on it. So I was like, "Oh, lovely." And again, I didn't know what to expect. So I was like, "Okay," she's like, "If you have questions, this, that." And so I asked her, I'm like, "What does that pill you gave me do to my cervix? Does it open it?" Because I know that like cervixes dilate when you're giving birth. So she's like, no, it doesn't open it, but it changes the consistency of your cervix. It softens your cervix. So instead of it being like the consistency of like the cartilage in your nose, which is what it is normally, think of it as more like mashed potatoes compared to the cartilage in your nose. I said, "Oh, okay. So all of this is going to go through my cervix." Yep. Awesome. So she goes, "Okay, are we ready?" And she's talking to me the whole time she's down there getting ready to do things, all that. And she goes, "Okay, we're going to stick the little metal pole up there." Guys, I had never experienced so much pain in my uterus in my entire life than I experienced getting that metal pole shoved up my hoo-ha. Yeah, it was terrible. Terrible. Like, oh my gosh, and nobody was there to hold my hand or anything. Like, I was all alone with my thoughts and with my doctor. And oh my gosh, I can't even explain it to you, but the whole time I was like I don't cry at pain easily. And I was in so much pain, I was brought to tears, almost brought to tears. Like I had to fight back tears. It was like, so I took, you know, deep breaths, trying so hard to be like, whew, you know, breathe through it. And it wasn't up there that long. And then she's like, okay, the number you have to remember is 8. And she's like, just remember that for me. So to keep my mind off of it, she's, you know, I'm like 8, thinking blah, 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 blah. And then it was time to get the IUD inserted. And she was really good and really fast and did it as quick as possible. But then the thing that caused me so much pain happened again with the IUD thing. So it goes on up and through and in, and she releases the thing at 8 and lets it go. And there it was. And it was, now granted, I have not been pregnant, I have not given birth, and I've been very blessed with minimal cramps for my entire life. It was, I'm not joking. Other than the whole eye experience I had, which was the most painful thing I've ever experienced, but that was a freak accident. This was the most painful thing I have ever experienced in my life. Just like, like bad period cramps don't even say, like it doesn't explain it. So there was that. But then it was in, and then it was done, and I, you know, fought back tears for a minute, took a couple minutes to breathe. She's like, you know, take your time, wait a couple minutes before you sit up, so because I guess she understands it. If she has one, so she understands fully what I was experiencing to some extent. Her level of pain and whatnot might be different, but she said she had one too, and so she knows. And so I was just like, oh, and like took me a while, and like then I felt like shaky and weird and like kind of violated. You know, I don't know. And so I spent the whole rest of the day, I just went home and I chilled in comfy pants, and we were living with our friends at the time, and they knew what I had done that day. And so we were just hanging out at home, and I took it easy and just kind of felt gross and weird the rest of the day and whatever. So that was the actual insertion. I'm not looking forward to ever doing that again. I don't know if I'll ever have to do that again, but at least I know what to expect the next time around. So there's that. Then the whole process of your body changing happens. And I experienced, it says you're going to experience, it says that whatever says, my doctor also said you will experience, my gosh, what's spotting? That's the word, spotting, where like you bleed a little bit for a uncertain amount of time. I experienced spotting for almost a month. Yeah. Every single day there was something down there, so I became a avid panty liner person for that month. And then eventually it stopped, and I said, oh good, okay. So there was that. And then like the initial rush was over, right? And now it was just a matter of what were my periods going to be like? Was I going to be one of the lucky people that says at least 50% of people have lighter periods or their periods stop completely? No. That was not in my cards, and to this day, a year later, it is not in my cards. I still definitely get my periods. I get really bad PMS, more so than I ever have in my life, with the most severe cramps I have ever experienced in my entire life. And that's a whole nother thing. So not only do I cramp during my period, and it's like electric shocks running through my uterus, but I cramp when it's not my period. And it was worse at the beginning, but it still happens. I think it's when I'm ovulating that I'm getting those cramps, and it's called like Mittelschmerz or something like that. Like that's an actual condition where you cramp during ovulation. But like I would get cramps at the most random times, and I remember it was like a month and a half after I had gotten it. My husband and I were at Macy's, and I was just I could barely stand up in the mall because my cramps were so bad. It was ridiculous. And I wasn't bleeding at that point. There was no period. It was just cramps. And that happens on and off throughout this entire year. For no reason, I have cramps. Awesome. So then let's talk periods. With my periods, I thought, well, maybe so they don't go away. Maybe they'll at least get lighter. Nope. My periods have been heavier, generally speaking. There have been a couple of months on and off, but in general, they've been heavier, and they have most definitely been longer than anytime I can remember my periods ever being. And they have been more painful than I can ever remember my periods being. So, awesome. Yeah. A friend of mine commented, had a Facebook status one day, it's like, I'm going to get an IUD today, I'm so excited about not having my period. And I commented, I'm like, dude, don't hold your breath. I've had it for like 8 months and I still get mine. And she said, yeah, but I've had a kid and the doctor says that that increases my likelihood of having my period stop. I don't know if that's true or not, but that would explain why why I'm one of the unlucky ones whose periods have not stopped. Because I have not been pregnant, I have not given birth, nor do I plan to, hence why I have a Mirena. And I know that I've read that Mirenas are most commonly given to women who have given birth and have at least one child or two, whatever. Someone who has given birth and then wants to prevent themselves from getting pregnant. So I don't know if that has anything to do with why my body is reacting the way it is, but this is how my body's reacting. And I wanted to tell you guys / show you / I don't know if I'll be able to actually show you, but because I was curious and because I'm also a worrywart, so one of the highlights of having an IUD is that your period stops, right? One of the symptoms of pregnancy is that your period stops, right? So me, being the worrier I am, I was like, but if I don't get my period, how am I going to know if I'm pregnant or not? Because we don't want to get pregnant. So I decided to get one of those period tracker apps. And the one I have been using is called Eve. And I really love it. Eve is like a whole community. There's boards that talk about all sorts of reproductive issues and sex and this. Like there's a whole community. But I basically use it to track my period. And it asks you, you can track all sorts of things. Let's see. I don't know if you can see this or not. But it lets you track things like, how are you feeling? Cramps, cardio, or did you exercise? Are you experiencing any symptoms? Did you indulge? What's your sex drive? Did you get some? And then explain what kind of some you got. Your flow, your discharge, and anything weird. And it actually will track these stats for you whenever you decide to record them, which is really cool. And it'll also ask you when you log in if you're due, it'll tell you where you are in your cycle based on your history of your recordings. Like me, it's October 25th today. I don't know when this video is going up, but today is October 25th. My next period is in 17 days according to this app. And it has a really nice calendar where you can go through and you can see exactly where your periods have been. You can change them, you can start them, you can finish it. It's really a cool app. Not sponsored, by the way. Oh, where is it? I just saw it. There's a list view. And just for this, I was like, well, I wonder how, you know, where I can gather my information. But I've been tracking for about a year, and it's giving me my average length of my cycles. So, my shortest cycles, which were when I got the IUD and one right before. Oh, so okay. So my shortest periods were the month before I got the IUD and the month, like the period that I got my IUD in. And those were 5-day periods. But then after, of course, the one I got my IUD and I continued to bleed for about a month. And then in December, oh, maybe I didn't have a period in November. That would make sense because I bled for the entire month. So December was the next period that I actually tracked as an official period. That was a week long. Then I had 6 days, 6 days, 6 days, 6 days. 8 days, 7 days, 4 days, 8 days, 6 days, 11 days, and then my last period was 8 days. It's terrible. It's terrible. And then it also tells you what day on your cycle you started your period. So I'm just going to go through that from the bottom up again. Day 28, right on time. 35, 31, 27, 30, 24, 31, 26, 33, 24, 31, day 32, and day 28. So, as you can tell, my periods have not been consistent at all. Occasionally they are. Like last month, it came on the day that my app said, your period's due today, and it showed up. I was like, well, look at that. There have been months, I think there was like 1 or 2 months where my period showed up a week early. And then there have been months where my period shows up almost a week late. So that's the period experience on my IUD. Do I regret getting the IUD? No, I don't, because at the end of the day, it's something I don't really have to think about. I don't have to worry about taking a pill. I don't have to wig out if I forgot to take something at the exact hour and had unprotected sex. It doesn't matter. So in that capacity, it's great. It is also the most effective form of birth control out there other than not having sex. It is more effective than the pill. So there you have it. I don't know what your belief systems are, if you think an IUD is right, wrong, whatever. And I don't know if there's even any controversy around it. I honestly have no idea. But at the end of the day, this is what works for me. Am I loving the entire experience? Not at all. But it is convenient. And again, it keeps me from having to worry about the pill and getting prescriptions refilled and oh crap, what if I run out? And all those worries that I have with the pill aren't there anymore. So at the end of the day, despite all of the pain and uncertainty and this and that about other things happening down there, I know that pregnancy and all of the inconveniences of the pill are things that I don't have to worry about anymore. So I don't regret actually getting the thing. But I wanted to hop on here and I wanted to tell you guys my probably really randomly ordered experience. But I want to tell you my experience nonetheless because I know there are going to be women and girls out there that want to do this or are considering doing this and really don't know what to expect. And while my story is only one version of the many, many, many women out there who have an IUD of some sort, it's my experience and it's something for you to now know and you can draw on if you need to. You know what I'm saying? So that was my IUD story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you got to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. And I want to know, comment down below if you don't mind sharing a little bit of personal information about yourself. Do you have an IUD? Why or why not? And how do you like it? Do you have an experience similar to mine or is yours completely different from mine? I'm genuinely curious to know because I know all of our bodies are a little bit different. So I just want to know if my experience is normal or not, or maybe there is no normal. Who knows? Comment below and let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you next time. Bye.